Is Zebec indirectly, in my opinion, saying goodbye to all the rumors out there, saying that, oh, they're never going to be launching the mobile version of the Super App? I think so, because did you know that Zebec just recently made a post saying how the Zebec Super App, in terms of the mobile version, it's pending approval. Wow. Now I'll talk about this in today's video, despite, the price chart's not doing the best. But I first want to clarify, nothing I say is financial advice, and I'm not telling anyone to do anything. However, before I continue on any further, I just want to give an explanation, and I feel like I owe this to my viewers and my audience. Here's the thing. When it comes to videos like this, I'm not going to be pulling up a price chart, drawing some random triangles. I'm not going to be caring about what's going on in the past 24 hours or what might happen in the next 48 hours. This is more so geared towards the long-term fans when it comes to Zebec. Maybe the ones that are thinking, hey, what's going on when it comes to Zebec? What are the updates? It's more so geared towards that audience. I mean, I get it. There's other people out there that would pull up a price chart, they completely ignore the fundamentals, and they just focus entirely on, drawing like a falling wedge pattern or a random triangle or whatever, right? But that's just not my style. My style is more so for the long term. And I get it. It's especially kind of a little bit boring, maybe some people might like to say, because at a market condition like this, and especially during a bear market, it's not that easy, right, to care so much about a project, especially when it comes to the updates or whatever is going on, especially if the price charts are not looking the best. But again, this is more so just personally for me, documenting my journey along the way, and also making videos for the fans out there who actually care maybe about what's really going on when it comes to Zebec in terms of the fundamentals, and maybe what's going on in terms of the updates. That's pretty much about it, because again, I'm not taking a look at, oh, the past 24 hours is doing this. Again, no. But even besides that point, I just wanted to clarify that, right? However, did you know that the Zebec Super App, apparently, it's already been submitted to the App Store and the Play Store, so it's just pending approval at this point. So yeah, I mean, they're apparently going to be doing it soon. And when it comes to that, they're going to be sharing more updates, they say, as they get closer to the official release. So we'll still have to wait and see when it comes to this. But nonetheless, I just think it's pretty impressive seeing this, because eventually they're doing it, right? Finally, I should say. Now, they've always intended to do this, so it wasn't anything so surprising seeing them actually be focused on something like this. But at the same time, it's pretty impressive, because we do now know that the World Liberty markets, they're live on the Super App, allegedly. And now I think it puts the mobile version, the launch of it, in just a better position. When I take a look at, let's say in the case of the Super App, I get it. It's been a delay. Or should I say there has been a delay, because based off their roadmap, the mobile version of the Super App was actually supposed to launch in the middle of March. Now, one thing we do know, though, is that the desktop version actually launched earlier on this year. So they kind of kept their word when it comes to that, right? They actually did launch it. So it was something I can't complain about. However, the mobile version, that was the one that kind of took quite a while. Now, what did I think caused it to take quite a while? I think they were a little bit distracted, but I think in a good way. I don't mean it in a bad way. And the reason why is because if we take a look at, let's say, Zebec, they had a partnership with Stellar and Ripple this year, right? And that's not that easy to pull off. Like, that's pretty difficult, in my opinion. So, of course, I think maybe when they first launched the Super App in terms of, the desktop version, I think maybe initially they weren't that preoccupied. And then I think when they were about to launch the mobile version of the Super App, maybe they got kind of busy with the Stellar and Ripple team. And then maybe they were kind of figuring out things behind the scenes. I think that could have been a logical, excuse, right? And I think if that is actually the case, I think Zebec should say that. I don't think it's embarrassing to have a delayed launch when it comes to the Super App in terms of the mobile version. I don't find it to be embarrassing at all. In fact, if anything, if Zebec came out and said, hey, you know what? The reason why it was delayed was because we kept working with the Ripple and Stellar team behind the scenes, I think a lot of people would actually find that to be a really fantastic thing. It doesn't diminish Zebec. It doesn't mean that, they can't be focused on so many things at once, they weren't able to handle it. No, I think if anything, it's a reasonable excuse, in my opinion, right? I don't find it to be a bad thing. It's like, for instance, I want to pick up my friend, but I'm late because I try to help someone. It's a reasonable excuse. Like, that's just the way I take a look at it. Now, if I'm late just because I was lazy or because I overslept or something like that, then yeah, that's kind of disrespectful in my opinion, especially if I already said to my friend that I'm going to be there at that time, at that specific date. But if there's like a slight delay, like, being a little bit late just because we helped someone along the way, I think they would understand. I think so, especially if we explain it, right? We're like, hey, apologies for being late. The reason why is because I try to help this person along the way. Hopefully, I'll try to be on time next time, but, something came along the way, right? It would be a little bit disrespectful if I came up and just said, oh, yeah, I'm late because I overslept. Then, okay, that's not good. But yeah, when it comes to Zebec, I think they should kind of explain a little bit why there was a delay when it comes to the mobile version of the Super App. But hey, you know what? I'm not going to complain. I actually have another theory as to why they might be late in terms of launching the mobile version of the Super App. I think maybe they might have been waiting for the World Liberty Markets to be live first on the Super App before they actually launch the mobile version. Now, that's another theory. That could also make sense. Maybe they were busy with the Ripple and Stellar team behind the scenes, and then they were like, okay, we could launch the mobile version earlier, but why not wait until the World Liberty Markets are live on the Super App? Maybe that was the thing. Who knows, right? So if that was actually the case, then it's an even bigger thumbs up. Maybe they were waiting for something big to happen before they launched it. So yeah, when I take a look at something like this, in either respect, I just don't find it to be a bad thing that Zebec was kind of late in terms of launching the mobile version of the Super App. I think there's probably a valid excuse, and seemingly so as of right now. If we take a look at how recently World Liberty Markets went live on the Super App, and also how they recently had a partnership with Zebec and Ripple. That's the thing. It's all perfectly fine if that was the excuse, or the excuses, I should say plural, that they use, if they even ever come out with why it was late. But you know what? If they never explain why the Super App, in terms of the mobile version, was delayed, I have zero complaints. I'll be like, okay, whatever. I'm not going to complain. If they actually launch it, they'll actually launch it. Why would I complain, right? But I'm just expressing how I feel as of right now. But besides that point, surprisingly though, when I take a look at Zebec, it hasn't had too much of a drastic decrease. In a sense where if I take a look at it, it's at around a 234 million market cap, around 233. So it's over 2 times lower than its all-time high last year. However, on the flip side, if we take a look at Bitcoin, as of right now being at around 60 grand, it's around over 2 times lower than its all-time high. And if I take a look at Zebec for an altcoin, especially just going down around 2 times compared to its peak last year, it's not like so bad, in a sense where it's not good, of course, but at the same time, like for the category of an altcoin and for the category of a project of this size not even being top 100 as of right now, it's pretty surprising seeing how the decrease hasn't been as extensive as some of the more bigger projects out there, and also as some of the more established projects out there. Other projects out there that are more established, they've been down like 80, 90% ever since last year. Zebec just hasn't seen something like that, to that extent, I should say. It's kind of holding up a little bit as good as Bitcoin for whatever reason. I mean, in terms of percentage, right? Not in terms of the actual like market cap, no. But in terms of the actual percentage that it kind of had a relative pullback from, it's kind of similar a little bit, which is kind of comical. It's almost like unheard of in the altcoin space, but apparently that kind of is the case, which is pretty surprising. And now people like to ask me, when is the bottom? I'll never be able to know the bottom, by the way. There's just no way I can know that. But one thing I've kind of realized from the past is that usually like a year after a Bitcoin all-time high, typically after the market, has had a big decrease like that, a year usually after an all-time high, things kind of typically start recovering a little bit, right? That's usually when things kind of hypothetically bottom out. I've seen that historically in the past. Will it be the same this time around? I have no idea. We'll wait and see. However, what I'm just saying is that that's from what I noticed so far. Now, we're around 8.5 months removed from the Bitcoin all-time high. So if history kind of repeats itself in this instance, and let's say in around 3.5 months or in around 4 months, the space kind of bottoms out and has maybe a slight reversal or a slight recovery, it doesn't seem like too long maybe if I have to wait until then, because my mindset is years anyway. So if someone told me, hey, you're going to have to wait another 4 months before things become somewhat interesting again, or you have to endure another 4 months of things being boring, I'll be like, okay, sure, it probably isn't the most exciting thing out there, but I'm not going to complain. That's my mindset. I'm willing to wait for years. So if I have to wait for like 4 months for something to kind of, bottom out or whatever, yeah, I have no complaints. But I mean, we'll wait and see this time around. But in the meantime, I mean, I'll still be documenting my journey. I'll still be talking about, what I'm doing along the way. So it's kind of like me just documenting my journey along the way. That's pretty much about it. However, I'm looking forward to the actual official release of the super app when it comes to the mobile version in regard to Zebec. So yeah, that's what I'm kind of looking forward to as of right now, but I'll be sure to make more updates moving forward. However, I want to say thank you so much for watching. It's Mali the Captain, and hopefully I'll see y'all on the next one.